Welcome to What the FRAK, the podcast that dives deep into the world of fractional professionals. Join us as we feature insightful interviews with the 2024 Fractional Conference speakers. For more information and to stay connected, visit www.fractionalconference.com.
Inspired. This is our first live I don't know the difference, Jason. We'll talk about Jason, our guest, in a minute, between a podcast, a live stream, a web stream, a webinar, but it all means the same thing. And it means we decided to help people learn something in an environment where they can interact and talk and learn from us. And of course, here with the What the FRAK, our job is to help people learn about fractional. I am your host, sitting in a very comfortable dad chair, which seems like a good place to sit, up in northern Minnesota today. My name is John Arms. I am often referred to as the mayor of Frackville. I am passionate about fractional, what it can do for people, what it can do for small businesses and medium-sized businesses, what it does for people's career and general outlook on life. I have chosen that to be something I care a lot about. And so I spend a lot of time in it. And FRAK is a place where all that comes together. With me today is a person I've never met, don't know him, total stranger. I don't even recognize him, just came off the street, I think, is Jason Jones. And Jason, he's actually a really good friend. And he's a wonderful human being. And he has some time at FRAK where he's going to share and teach about communication. And I'm gonna press you a little bit, Jason, on what you're going to share and talk about and that kind of stuff. But before we do, I want to say, hey, welcome everybody listening later. People who are dialing in, we're really glad to have you. And our hope, our mission, vision, values, dream, all of that is to help you learn about fractional. Pursue it if it's something you want to do, if you want to leave the corporate world and get into the fractional world, if you want to support that $15 trillion of our economy that is small and mid-market, then this is definitely the place to you. Welcome, Jason, and it's good to see you.
Thanks. It's good to spend time with you, John. I feel like I'm hanging out at your cabin. This is great.
It's the whole new world we're in, right?
It is, right? Like, oh, this is work. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
Like, this ain't too bad. So bad. Yeah. Live full time and work fractionally. It sounds good.
Right. Our wonderful producer who's not on camera, you won't see her or anything, but she's a very good friend. Her name is Casey First, and she recommended this great book to me recently, Be Your Future Self Now.
Oh, that is good.
Have you read that one?
I have not, but I do. In terms just of my own thinking, just around my own work and even in my coaching, often will become the question like, so how can you set up your future self to have it easier?
Yeah.
Like, how can you be in a position where you're always thanking your old self for setting you up so well, rather than being angry at your old self for not doing more things to prepare your future self, right? And let's just flip that, where you're like, my old self was so awesome because here I am, right?
Right.
And so it's like, so then you're engaging in the becoming, always becoming, rather than just trying to navigate.
There's something really interesting that I just started reading that book last night, and there's something super interesting in it, and it talks about, you do it. I thought it was very timely, right? Like, be your future self now, and start thinking those thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. And start feeling those feels and all of that. And I was telling a friend of mine as well, who's really trying to push the rope towards a future state. Mm-hmm. I said, never forget. And this was in the book. And it's been in other books too, is the future is also pulling you in its direction. Mm-hmm. Right? You can push and you can morph and you can change. And, at FRAK, you're going to meet people and learn things that'll take you into your future self. Over at Voyager, we teach people all that. But it's sometimes it can feel like you're pushing a rope, right? But remember that the future is also pulling you there. So that's something to keep in mind. Well, speaking of the future, on October 20, later on October, FRAK begins. Mm-hmm. FRAK begins, and we have a wonderful mission to help people understand, thrive as fractional pros, become fractional pros, support fractional pros, embrace this whole self-determination thing that's a movement in America. We have a job there. And you are going to be there, and you've got something to talk about there. And would you talk a little bit about what you're going to share, how you want to help people there? Let's hear from you.
Yeah. So, so the role that I get to have that I'm really delighted in is that I get to be the host and guide through the experience, right? So my role is essentially to help cognitively thread everything together of the full experience for people in terms of integration. And, I kind of jumped into this kind of in the 11th hour last year. And what I was so thrilled about jumping into is how you, John, and the rest of the team had so thoughtfully put the first experience together in such a way that it wasn't what I would call a typical conference. A typical conference that we
hear that a lot.
We hear the speaker, we take notes, we go home, we use maybe a tenth of them, or we just forget it altogether, and go about doing, what we're doing. And what I saw there is an experience by which not only so it's not a guru-centered thing, like you're there just to see our lineup of amazing geniuses. And yeah, we do have a lineup of really amazing people, but what's also is that it's designed in such a way that we leverage the collaborative power and collaborative learning, right? So there's all kinds of elements that are set up to be able to process what you're learning, what you see differently now. Because what I've really kind of gotten clear on in the process is that in the world we live in now, John, it's much less about knowing. We can have knowing at our fingertips. What do you mean by that? You can Google anything and know it, right?
Oh, sure.
And so it's not even about knowing. And even as someone who is you want to be a consultant, a fractional consultant, you want to go out and help and engage. And where we often start with is well, I have all this knowledge. So I want to go and I want to tell you all my knowledge, John. Yeah. Let me tell you my knowledge on how to communicate and all that. And that is interesting information. And I could, you'd be like, oh, well, that's an interesting point of view, Jason.
And findable.
Yeah, but it doesn't really go beyond that, right?
Yeah.
What makes the difference, where value shows up, where people go, wow, I think we need you to be part of our conversation. I think we need you to be here, is when you're coming in and you're helping them see what you can see.
Yeah.
So that you can see it together, which is distinct from just relaying knowledge.
Yeah. Oh my God, huge. It's people have asked me to describe it. And you were touching on it, right? I think what we know events to be, and we know trade showy or whatever, right? They're informational.
Yep.
That's not this. This is transformational. This is a snake getting out of its old skin into its comfortable new skin. It's very transformational. And I got to throw some props out right now, because the wonderful Katie Walter, she's in charge of programming, and you can just see, if you go to fractionalconference.com, take a look at the speakers, all of that, everything that she has amazingly pulled together. This is like a Michelin star event if it were a restaurant, right? It is all transformational stuff. There's nothing at FRAK that's going to be something you can find on Google, or even something, quite honestly, Jason, even with you, right? You can't even get it in a Zoom webinar.
No,
there's too many feels. There's too much transformation. There's just too much there. And Katie just did such an amazing job of here's what fractional is going to look like this year from a transformational standpoint. Well, you're in that business too. You have the coaching hour. You're a coach. You help people transform in many ways. I find it interesting. I'm a big fan of kind of coaching podcasts like Jay Shetty, and there's somewhere out there. What is going on in the coaching world? It's just blowing up, and you're a coach. Why are we at this state where we're consuming coaching so much? We need it. It's adding so much value. What's going on there? Why is that coaching and transformation, that's a big thing on the radar? Why?
Well, I think what's really relevant about recognizing just kind of recognizing the expansion of coaching, there's a parallel between what's happening in this fractional movement and also what happened when coaching started to become a thing. Because coaching didn't become a thing because somebody at a company said, we should get a coach in here. Or a small business said, hey, you know what? I think I'm just not thinking clearly. If I had a coach that could help me make decisions better, I think I'd do that. Nobody was doing that, right? people learn the practice of coaching in order to be able to help create clarity, navigate the decisions, the challenges, stay grounded in reality. Like a really good coach helps someone see what they're not able to see because of their own mind, their own biases, all that. And so when they can see more, then they're able to make better decisions. They're able to be more confident in what they're doing. They're able to be clearer moving forward, and that's what, like, at its core, what coaching provides. And so like FRAK, coaching was a supply side phenomenon. We had a whole bunch of people going, I want to be a coach. I want to help people. And then the more of them that went out selling it and promoting it and marketing it and showing its value, the more people there are like, agreeing, like, I see the value, and started to buying it, to now, like, coaching's a thing. Now it's like, it's like, do you have a coach? Do you have a coach right now? Would you have more than one coach? That's what this is becoming, inside of that. And it's a really interesting parallel, because a lot of people that are going into FRAK, they're like, well, but nobody's hiring a FRAK person, and they're looking for something existing. And so one of the things that we're doing in the FRAK conference is saying, it doesn't really exist. We're creating it. We're creating it from the supply side. We're bringing it forward and identifying the value and determining the engagements and what are the norms of those engagements. That's the huge opportunity that we have here. So what's so brilliant about what Katie and the committee and everybody and yourself in creating the programming and experience of what is FRAK is that for everyone, it's going to educate their imagination in terms of what does it look like to participate in this way, to bring my value forward in this way? How do I communicate that in a way that it lands and connects and it turns into an engagement and an opportunity where I can really make a really big difference? How is that world different? Because, working a corporate position, even if you're in leadership and being out on your own, I've been self-employed for 20 years, right? Yeah. Those are that's Mars and Venus, or Earth and Venus. You know what I mean? They're like two different planets to navigate. Yeah. And so the first place is not to just go, what do I need? I need marketing. I need a lead magnet. I need a website. Those are the things, but you don't really get clear on how to use those things, or even if you want to use or need to use those things until you're aware of the landscape you're going in. So for someone who's going in, like they're thinking about going FRAK, or they've decided they're going to and they want to go, then come to FRAK to get the world of the landscape, so you have a sense of how you're going to navigate, where you want to invest, and what you do. And if you're experienced, well, then you're also being a part of, you're an experienced consultant, and maybe you're adding or you're bringing in and including fractional as a part of your work. Well, so too will you get the clarity of how is this phenomenon shaping, and how can you best position yourself to make a difference? But none of that happens if you're educated. Your imagination isn't there.
You can't do it alone, for sure. And there's a. Do you follow Brett Trainer, the corporate escapee? Have you come across him or listened?
I've heard of him, but I haven't read.
Yeah, he's a good cat. He's out of the Chicago area, and he's got this whole thing about the corporate escape. And we became fast friends, of course. A couple of years ago, I'm like, I really love what you're doing. You're helping people have context, right? Corporate look, and I'm not saying it's all the same. It's not a monolith. Not all corporate is the same, but there have been themes and there have been realities, and he's packaged that and said, corporate looks us to millions of people. Corporate looks and smells and tastes a certain way. And that's not good for the soul, the mind, the pocketbook, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
And that sort of a old world, pre-pandemic, it was a way that it was. And I write about this in Revolt, about how that's the rise of fractional, the death of full time, because corporate looked a certain way. And then we decided as a society, we don't necessarily love how that looks. But that's not enough, right? I don't like toxicity. I don't like commutes. I don't like having a boss that micromanages, but you have to also have a vision on what you want your future world to look like. And I'd love you to talk about this, because a lot of people come to me and say, it's about clients. If I got a client, everything's okay. It's more transformational than that. Tell me what you see. Tell me it's not just about clients and having, steady retainer checks. What else is the life of a fractional is about to you as you inform and educate people and live it yourself?
Well, I think one thing is just like kind of discussing the reality of starting a business and then being in business.
Mm-hmm.
Because over the evolution of your business, unless you're being intentional, your fractional business can turn into the same kind of stress, overburdened, too many hours, too much work, not enough pay. It can replicate only even worse than the previous thing you thought you were getting out of, because the intention wasn't there. And so it's just, I understand the anxiety around, well, I got to get the money. I have to have the money coming in. I have to pay the bills. So having a focus initially on, I need to make business development happen and understand how I'm doing business development as a first step is great. But what follows that, and which I think is your question, like what comes after that? Then what comes after that is being really intentional in setting up the boundaries around your engagements and how they work and how you are going to actually train your clients to interact with you. What is acceptable in terms of the norms of that interaction? What can they request without paying more? And then how well you hold those boundaries. Because if you go into your business with the kind of mentality that maybe you had in your corporate position where you're like, I'll volunteer for that, I'll do that, I'm going to show I'm so awesome, I'll do extra, like, oh, this person's a rising star to get promotions. If you do that in a business, you're just going to give a bunch of stuff away, burn yourself out, and you're not going to make anything because you're losing the value. It doesn't work in that environment in the same way. So instead, it's about being intelligent and being intentional about what are the guardrails, John? Like what are your guardrails? When you have an engagement for $5 or $10 grand a month, how much do they get? What are the lines? How will you communicate that? And then also, like, how are you actually navigating that engagement? Because you've got the outside inside element. You're not quite inside. You're not quite outside. You know, so those are things. And you're also managing your relationships. Everybody is peers. Your client is a peer. It's no longer, hello there, direct report president. You know, I am your direct. It's more like, okay, let's get together and get clear on this together and strategize and understand, rather than, how can I please you? Not that everybody operates that way, but that shows up.
Right. These are big themes. So I'm gonna unpack them a little bit and have you take us through one by one if you could.
Hey everyone, Jake Stahl here, fractional CSO of FRAK 2024. Are you ready to take your fractional business to the next level? Then get your gear ready for FRAK 2024, the ultimate conference for fractional professionals. Now, let me assure you, this isn't just another boring conference. It's all about learning, community, and serious inspiration. You're going to walk away with a treasure trove of resources and support, so you won't be flying solo when you get back home. You'll rub elbows with industry leaders, soaking up invaluable insights and cutting-edge tools for business, such as AI integration, so you can be delivering knockout value to your clients. And the best part? You're going to feel inspired and pumped and ready to crush new goals and reach new heights. Oh, and did I mention sponsorships are still up for grabs for those who want to make an even bigger splash. So don't miss out. Learn more and sign up today at www.fractionalconference.com. And I will see you there.
Yeah. Okay. Because there's so much here, right? Like,
just like
norm being.
We have a day and a half of FRAK conference, and we kind of that's just to open the imagination, right? It's kind of like there's going to be some practical things, but it's not going to be like I have everything I need. I need nothing else, and I'm off.
Right. There's a lot to grasp here, and it's really important. So I want to have you talk a little bit about you're not gaining a client, you're a partner. And when we teach at Voyager, we're like, listen, you're an ally to this company. And that wasn't the corporate world. The reward for being good in corporate was more work. Oh, you're good. You're going to get more work. The reward is different. Could you talk about the transition, right, from being a sort of a role player on a bench in a corporation to an ally to a few fractional clients? What is that? Explain that to our listeners, what that looks like.
Right. So going, that kind of lives in the position that you're taking, right? So, and also thinking in terms of this client as what is the long-term value and what is the journey with this client? It doesn't have to be, unless you decide it, that you'll go in and get them set up so that they don't need you, right? Yeah. Or you can go in and make yourself an integral part of the business that brings an extraordinary return. So they want to keep paying it every month because they're getting a big return on it every month and retain you for years and years and years, as long as you want to be retained. kind of thing. And that is a mindset. That's a going in, looking at it that way. Because when you're looking at it that way, now you're having conversations that are generating the future together and acknowledging the value being created by your presence, which is all intentional conversations. Intentional conversations.
What I think Brett would say, I got to get him on here. What he would say is the mindset in corporate is don't lose my job. Don't rock the boat. And don't lose your health care and don't lose your benefits.
Right.
So that's sort of a don't lose mentality. You know, sort of whatever you would call that. You're talking much more about an abundance mentality here. Go a little bit deeper into that, in the mindset, because I know you love mindset and you're good at it.
Well, I mean, mindset is really everything. And it's about, you know, in my program, we integrate mindset rather than just talk about it. You know, it's like, hey, you ever had the saboteur show up? Yeah, me too. What do we do? I don't know. Wait for it to go away. You know, that's not really working on having power over that kind of thing, right? And so it's really, when you think about mindset, it's like you want to think about, like, where are you putting your focus? What is your focus on? You know, like, as in the analogy and the comparison that you were making, like what all your decisions are, like every decision you make about, like, if you're going to point something out or if you're going to, like, rock the boat or say something that somebody doesn't agree with, is coming from a place of, will I risk losing my job if I do that? Will I risk losing that? And so when that is always a part of the equation, then that really limits your effectiveness, because you're kind of making imaginary calculations on what may or may not happen. And so if that's where the doing the work on your confidence, so that you can sit and be a peer to that president that you've always been like a direct report of, or maybe looked up to, or whatever, but like that you are like equals solving a problem together. And then also, you know, there is the element of learning how to have conversations that aren't challenging. That's not the word. It's not that they're not challenging. Conversations that aren't confronting. You know, like, let me tell you why you're wrong about this, John. You know, instead, like, well, let's look at this deeper and take them deeper so they can see what you can see. And then they may go, yeah, you know, I'm not quite seeing this like I was, but they have in their own process come around to it, you know, and it's like you're taking a different approach to engaging and working with the different influences and the different people that are in the room, because you have the benefit of being on the outside. Because you're inside and outside. So there's a certain level of power and autonomy that you have being on the outside. And the big one is, hey, if this goes bad, if you're not coachable, if you're not willing to take direction so that we can make impact, and then you're just making bad decisions, even though I'm guiding you, I'm out. Because I'm not going to have a client that said, yeah, we had John as a marketer, and because they're not going to say, we didn't do any of his ideas, but he didn't really do very good for us.
Right? So it's, like I said, there's so much to unpack. I got to do a little business here. So I'm going to read off a couple things for people because it's important. One, you'll see Jason. You can catch Jason. Jason is available in the world. You can find Jason Jones on LinkedIn and all of that. He's got a wonderful product and service that he has. As it relates to FRAK, if you are new to FRAK and, you know, you're listening to this, what is this business? There are some tickets. There's tickets left, so you can get them. I think there's some discount tickets remaining, maybe a few, limited number of tickets remaining, and there's some VIP stuff going on. So I want to talk about that real quick.
So workshops and those like hands-on workshops on stuff that you need to be able to know how to execute. That's the practical aspects.
Deep dive VIP pre-conference workshop, and we're going to go into, you know, just tangibly how LinkedIn works for you, and, you know, the operating system of Fractional. It's a deep dive, things that you wouldn't get, you just wouldn't be able to extract just by osmosis.
Right.
So if you're listening, please go to Fractional Conference, take a look at the VIP stuff, check out hit the ticket button and grab your ticket for it while there's still some deals and discounts left. It's October 21st and 22nd. So though that seems a ways away, it's also not, because
it's not. It's,
you know,
it's right on the doorstep.
Yeah, right. But we're certainly well prepared. So that's a little business I wanted to do. What are you hoping to accomplish for FRAK this year, Jason?
You know what I really want to see lots of aha moments, and I also want to see like really great relationships get formed, because I saw this happen last year. You know, you find your tribe in a way, like you find your other people, and this is not advisable to do this alone. Yeah. And I don't mean necessarily hiring people. I mean, like you need other people who are doing the FRAK thing, and they're doing the consultant thing, going on their own together to help generate each other. As like when you're having like nobody's buying, nothing's happening, and we go, I must not be any good. To have that group to say, oh no, don't stop that conversation right now. You're amazing. And so we just got to keep moving and keep doing these things until it breaks, because it's a mind game and it's scary.
It is scary because it's new, right? It's
new and everything's at stake. I mean, your livelihood is at stake. Yeah.
It's no joke, right? So you want to go in prepared. You want to go in eyes wide open. You want to go with the team and the support. In the last 6 minutes we have here, I want to talk about that a little bit. I do want to talk about the community. I do want to talk about the team, and that it's not alone. We've got a wonderful person who's part of FRAK, everybody. Her name is Liz Otteson.
Oh, she's so awesome.
She's amazing. And she's head of community, and her brain just thinks in ways I've never seen a brain think that way. Like, what do new communities look like, and how do they thrive, and how can they be nutritious to each other? You had a very visceral response to the community last year that I think is carrying forward. Talk about what this community feels like to you.
Yeah, well, it's like her structure that she put into place beautifully facilitated people coming together, getting comfortable, and forming relationships. It's like if we compare it to a normal conference, right? Yeah. You kind of show up, maybe you chat with a couple people, but you may find yourself kind of by yourself, kind of working out your stuff kind of having your own experience. And because of the way this is designed, is like you're facilitated in with other people. It's like feels natural. It's like put in natural in the environment. And what we saw was like, there were several pods. So we had people like basically invited them to form a pod and then to continue meeting. And it was amazing how many continued to meet and connect and share and promote, again, leveraging that collaborative knowledge and experience and community. And so that and this is what I'm so excited about with what you've started and the players that you've brought in and the team that we have here, and what is getting created is that this, and even what I see happening in Fractional United, and seeing people sharing and supporting each other and teaching and sharing each other, right? This kind of collective learning is like so much more powerful than any program like, I've got a program and this will give it, anything is limited, but that is like an unlimited place to be meeting you where you're at and moving you forward. And so it's what I love is that it's effortless, John. Like you show up, and unless you are going to avoid being with people, you're going to engage and create new connections and friendships and alliances and people that are up to something like you are.
Yeah. There's Liz she busts you on that, by the way. She says they're not pods. They're hives.
Hives. Yes. We call them hives. Yes, they're not pods.
Right.
Got to get the terminology straight.
That's right. You got to buzz around. You got to create some activity. There's a lot of sweetness in it. We're together.
Yeah, I love it.
I love the way.
Thank you for that.
About it. And I think in many ways, at FRAK, what fractional is to the economy, what FRAK is to people, it is a hive of the new. We're clearly like we're in a new normal. Let's just call it what it is. People clutch their pearls and wring their hands on return to office, and it gets written about in the major news pubs. And then what was it? Dell recently said, "Get back to the office or else." And after people said, "Screw you," right? There's something else afoot here. People are saying, "My life, my values, my priorities, my ability to put my world on my own shoulders. I'll take that. Thank you very much." Yeah. And that is not a window inside of Dell. And it's not a window inside of Dell. It's a window in how we think about we create money and wealth and value and how we want that to look. And I think by the millions, we're saying, I want it to look better for me as an individual and not look so great for a big, large corporate entity. And that's healthy. There's a lot of economy there.
Well, it is. Well, and and change and shifting and all change is good, right? To do that. And the other thing that I'll point out is that, as you really, really painted a great picture of like how like people are recognizing and having more agency and taking more power out of like, well, then fire me kind of thing. Yeah. And I think a lot of that too has to never in the history of this world have we had technology such that we can be individually empowered to participate in the community on so many different levels.
Crazy. Yeah.
Right? Like if everything blows up for me, John, I can sell you stuff on Facebook Marketplace. You know what I mean? Like there are so many ways to make money now that they didn't exist before.
Oh my God. Like think about that. Think about our cycles in America here. Like the agrarian state and then the industrial state and then the technology, all of these states of being and where we're heading now. It's unbelievable. Well, we're at the top. We're in the last 60 seconds of the trip here. I want to say thank you, Jason. This has been you've shed light, both intelligence light, but also I think your light that you shine of excitement and wanting to help others. So I'm very grateful that you made time to be here today and shared your experience, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you for coming in today.
Oh, I appreciate that acknowledgement, John. Right back at you. I appreciate your leadership and like what you've been like ushering into the world and bringing amazing, talented people together to do amazing things. So it's a super amazing thing to be a part of.
Oh, wonderful. We're going to close it up, everybody. Thank you to Jason Jones. Thank you to everybody else helping with this. We will see everybody in October. Find the Fractional Conference now. Get there in October, but don't wait, right? There's all sorts of resources you can tap into today on that website that can help you in your fractional pursuit. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to What the Frack. Don't forget to register for the 2024 Fractional Conference at www.fractionalconference.com. See you next time.